I have with me Danny Scheible, who is a maker and an unusual maker at that because he makes things out of various tapes, regular tape. And the art he creates is called Tapigami. So tell me, Danny, how did you come up with Tapigami?
It wasn't a linear process, but I knew my goal. I knew that I wanted to make art as accessible as possible, and I wanted to be able to make art with everyone I met and be able to share it. So I went to the hardware store and I picked up all the materials that self-attached and played with them, and tape had the most potential. So I kept playing with it and decided I would stop once I couldn't make something new, and that hasn't happened. It's been about 11 years.
So what we have behind is your creation and the creation of people that you teach. So it's a collaborative effort. How long does it take for you to create something like that animal over there, you know?
A creation like that will take anywhere between 20 minutes and 2 hours, depending on how complicated it is. But you could also make one that takes 30 hours. It's really how much layering you want to do, how much rendering you want to do with the tape.
Now you sound like a digital artist using Adobe or one of the digital editing tools. You're talking about layering and rendition. Let's look at what is behind you. Is it a tree? What do you call that?
It is definitely a sculpture. I'm trying to create complicated forms that make people curious about what they are. And I'm trying to make as many different recesses in that shape. And I'm trying to combine a bunch of shapes together so it'll almost remind you of the center of a flower. To make things that are reminiscent, but definitely not objectional. And so it makes you curious about the material, and it makes you intrigued and engaged. And it attracts you, and it makes you want to be a part of it.
So I have two questions. The first question is how long it took for you to make that structure behind you, which is like a tree. The second is what you mentioned is when we think of tape, we think of it as a flat thing, doesn't lend itself to complexity or to things that can be layered. And I think what you're trying to prove is that, from that flat object, you can create these beautiful, intricate, complicated things.
Yeah, thank you. I'll answer the second part first. It's definitely part of my goal is to transform the material and take it to a place where you don't know what it is any longer. Part of that's to prove mastery, and part of that's to show the potential of the human's creative ingenuity. You want to say the limit's really inside of you, not with the material in front of you. So you have to believe in yourself and focus on yourself first, and then the art will come out of that. As far as how long that giant thing took me to make, I don't know. I know it took me about a month to assemble, but everything I make is component based. And so I had boxes of cylinders sitting around. I was like, I had an idea to make something. So I went and dug and found them and assembled them. But some of those are 10 years old and some are 10 days old. And so I can't tell you how long. I could guess. If I made it from start to finish, it would probably take 2 or 3 months.
So this is what we're seeing here is just one aspect of your work. It turns out that you work with other creators, musicians, theater, and other people, and also create jewelry. How do you make money?
Well, if the art's good enough, it sells itself. But that's always, you're doing something that is not a practical functional, but it is necessary. And part of the way that you make money from art is by allowing people to feel connected with it and to feel inspired through their engagement and interaction with it, and to make them realize that they can be a part of your art. And then also you can make things like beauty is always a good way to go about making money.
How did you first come to Maker Faire?
I came to Maker Faire via Oakland. I met Sabrina Merlot on the street. She invited me to go to the mini Maker Faire in Oakland. Then we went to the major Maker Faire to see what it was like. Then I was hooked, and I've been back every year.
And turns out that you're a favorite of Maker Faire. You won a bunch of awards.
They've been very kind to me here. So I hope, and I try really hard. I try to make something new for them and to make something bigger and better every year, and to share it in a more passionate way. So that's what I love about the Maker Faire, and it's been a wonderful relationship to build, and I hope that we can keep building it.
I was just stunned by that I call it an altar, which is right behind in the next room, which is lit up like an altar, and it just says make. Was that your conception?
Have really wanted to put words into my sculpture for a long time, and I took the opportunity of the Maker Faire to make that sign. I call it the Matrix. And it was really also a celebration of a new way of folding or a new techniques I had developed to manipulate the tape in different ways. And so for me, it's just trying to celebrate how I feel about the fair.
Danny, it was a real pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.